Hi guys, Dr. Pete here. Today we want to talk about maximising efficacy, which is the key to building a high capacity school culture. Now, maximising self and collective efficacy is one of the big four for flourishing schools, so let's get into it now. You know, when we think about schools, it's a universal experience, something that we all share, and all of us have got our own journey as students to consider. And when we think about our student journeys, typically they're either a really positive experience in our lives or a negative, a not so good time in our lives. When we think about why that happens, schools are very complex, development's very complex, but one reason matters more than most about why it tends to go one way or the other. Now that reason, of course, is that teachers matter, but it's not just any type of teacher. It's what we would call a unicorn teacher, a teacher that has a deeper impact well beyond what we understand in science. Now, if we jump back to my childhood, you can see there I am, 1987, I'm in maths, and I'm not the best student. I'm passively disengaged, I think's the term. I'm a bit of a rat bag, but I don't get in too much trouble. And I meet this teacher, Dr. Slade, my math teacher, and he decides to take an interest in me. He decides there's some potential beneath all that poor behavior. There's something about that kid. He's capable of so much more. Dr. Slade becomes a unicorn teacher in my life because he commits and he stays back in his lunch breaks and he pushes and he cares and drives me forward all the way to the point that I got an A for maths, and that was a really high water mark in my otherwise very difficult school experience. Now, I'm not alone in having that unicorn teacher experience. Many people have been profoundly, positively affected by key teachers in their lives. And when we unpack the unicorn teacher, we see two ingredients. I, as the student, have a belief in the teacher and to try harder. And the teacher, Dr. Slade in this case, certainly had the time and energy to tap into me and believe I was capable of so much more. To put a leadership and organisational lens over that, we would suggest that I, as a student, had higher capacity in those interactions, and my teacher had higher capacity in those interactions. And this notion of higher capacity is akin to a very important concept in education called higher efficacy. Now, efficacy, of course, it's about the capacity to produce a desired result. And efficacy and capacity are interlocked. When we think about efficacy in schools, we think about collective teacher efficacy and student self-efficacy. Collective teacher efficacy is tremendously important in the research and refers to the collective belief of teachers in their ability to positively impact upon student learning. And collective teacher efficacy has four factors: mastery experience, social persuasion, vicarious experience, and affective states. Now, collective efficacy would fluctuate because some weeks and months we're more on it than others. And so we use a pulse design, and you can see the norms here. See the fluctuating levels of collective efficacy in a typical school in Australia. You can then improve that, intervene on it, building high performance teaching teams, enhancing the activity cycle, and that creates the buffer effect. You can see the blue line now, how you can maximize collective teacher efficacy. Student self-efficacy runs along a similar line, very important in terms of influencing factors on student outcomes. Similar definition, slightly different because it's about a self-belief of a student in their ability to complete their schoolwork and improve their learning. The same four Bandura factors are changed ever so slightly to recognize self-efficacy. Pulse design is important because, again, these things fluctuate. You can see the fluctuations there. You can improve it by implementing a strong well-being, reflection, and goal-setting cycle in the classroom, and you can see the impact of that improvement over time. So you can see from the evidence that we have that efficacy fluctuates over time, and maximizing efficacy is about some targeted improvement activities for teachers and for students. And most importantly, when we're increasing efficacy, we're increasing the capacity. And that capacity is so important. We want teachers to have the capacity to teach each and every student, including people like me. And we want students, all students, to have the capacity to learn to their maximum potential. And so when we maximize efficacy, we create a high capacity school culture. And in doing so, we're creating a brighter and better future for everyone.